I get that.
Oh no!
Mary, that is fragile.
Fragile! Perfect start. Here we go.
It feels so weird. Which camera do you want me to look at? That one?
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
All right, well. So you've come here because you want to buy a Stark Varg. You may or may not want to do it by the time you watch this video. So there's a lot of little things about this bike that you just will or will not like. This bike is amazing in its whole, but there are a lot of little problems that plague this bike. I wouldn't really like to say plague, but it's kind of still hasn't been fixed, so it's where it's at. A lot of little things like it's gonna rub through the frame. We even put guards and it still rubbed through. These got marred up. The covers, super thin. If you can work through all of the little things, this is an outstanding bike. And with the price that it's at right now, with the warranty that it comes with, it is an amazing buy. You can hear it. It's not quiet. It's not a ninja bike. It makes its own noise. You can hear the chain, you can hear the tires, the connection is there. It gives you some kind of, not fulfillment, it gives you some kind of like sensory that you are going fast. When I first got off my KTM 350 and I went to this bike, I overrode this bike really heavily because I was used to the sound and the throttle, and you know how you feel when you're going fast. And this thing from 0 to 10 to 15 miles an hour almost gives you nothing. And I was riding so over my head in some of the slow stuff because I didn't have anything to go off of. After a couple of hours, it's golden. Not having to shift is amazing. Always having power is amazing. You could slap this thing in 30 horsepower and ride it all day and have a blast. I say all day, but it's more like 40 miles. Range is the negative. If you're a moto guy, if you're a fast like A pro moto guy, you're really only gonna get like 30 to 45 minutes out of it. If you're a mid-pack sleek class guy, dude, it's for you. It's gonna get you an hour and a half. If you have a little generator, you're gonna be putting about 1% a minute into it, maybe a little less than that. But I mean, in between motos, it's golden. We've got a 6250 and we use a splitter. We use a splitter on it. This generator can't handle full speed on both of our Starks, but almost about 80% speed. And it's golden. This thing is awesome. It deserves its own video. It's some Chinese brand, but it's only 86 pounds minus gas. It's served us great. I think we've got probably 200 or 300 hours on it at this point. The stands. The stands are atrocious. I get the idea. I get everything that was there. Dude, the stands are like 60 pounds with the charger in them. I don't want to lift this thing to put it on the stand every time. And when you have the stand next to the bike on the kickstand or whatever, it just doesn't orient right. The cable that comes out of the stand is this long. And when the stand is coming out down here, it's like it just doesn't fit. So we put these, I just got a Harbor Freight case. My wife's bougie, so she got a Milwaukee case. But mine, I just literally just screwed it in. These chargers are way more durable than you'd think. We've had a couple of mutters that these chargers, the generator, everything has just been left out in the rain. There's been days that we're off riding and man, it's in the parking lot getting rained on while connected to a running generator. Fingers crossed, haven't had any issues. My bike has eaten a battery. My wife's bike has eaten a motor. Both times, customer service was great. Got the parts within a week. The battery it probably takes us 10, 15 minutes to do now. The motor, I actually didn't have any part of. I was at work. My wife with a friend did the motor in about 2.5 hours. She just flipped it upside down and knocked it out. The complaint that I really have with the bike is the sum of the parts. They really have tried to make everything super light. Everything's super light, it's super thin, and at the cost of weight, they've sacrificed durability. I'm holding a Sprocket, and I'll tackle this later because this thing is like the easiest bike I've ever had on chain and sprockets. But I'll take this bar clamp, for example. It is milled so thin that I'm not going to name any names, but somebody in this house has bent mine and theirs. And now both of our bikes have Makos on them. Half the reason is because I really didn't want to have the phone on the screen. I didn't want to have it on the dash, and I didn't really care. I mean, all it would do is just give me range anxiety. So we took them off, put Makos on. Makos are a little bit heavier, but dude, it sucks to have to bend straight and get it all. And then they have the rubber cone mounts, and they twist in the triples, and dealing with that 2 or 3 times a day, it just sucks. So they've got an enduro version coming out, and I really hope some of the parts are thicker. Like, they just are built for quality, built for crashes. This is another example. It's the kickstand. Between my wife and I, we have broken 4 of these. They've sent us a new one every time we've asked, but what happens is the bike knifes this into the dirt, and it puts all of its weight on this, and it has this little thin piece of metal. It's like 2 of them that hold it together, and it just snaps it. And once it snaps, it's snapped. It's practically useless at that point.
They make an upgraded one.
Yeah, Race Torques. They make a couple of upgraded parts. They're actually starting making case covers. They actually started making billet case covers that are a little bit thicker. I don't have any experience with them, but if I had $300 and I needed a cover, that's actually probably where I would go. Speaking of upgraded parts, the Bulletproof Designs makes an adapter to put a KTM, a 2023 and newer chain guide on. I obliterated mine, and not from anything like bashing it on anything. It was just literally dragging it through ruts, and it bent it to where it was kicking my chain off. This one has been killer. I think we've probably got about 15 to 20 hours on them since we put the chain guides on. We did a 24-hour just a weekend ago, and these things were rock steady. We charged them on fast when we needed to, slow when we didn't. Speaking of parts that are possibly flawed, this carbon is awesome. It is sick. It is kind of like an air dam, but it's also the brace to your plastics here. And mine and my wife's are cracked. It didn't really take any significant crashes, but they're cracked. They get hit, they break, and they're not expensive. I think they're about $250 from Stark, but my plastics are still strong. I'm not gonna buy a new one, but it's same story. Like all of this, there's a lot of little stuff that is just so light, and it's just not strong. I'll circle back on the sprockets. This sprocket has 80 hours on it. This is off my wife's bike. She's not slow. She's probably about a mid-pack B rider. She's a pretty dang good rider. She's more of a hard enduro kind of girl, so she really doesn't like going fast, but there is almost no bending on this. It didn't really need to be replaced, but I needed to buy a new chain, and we did the motor at the same time, so she already had a new front sprocket. I was just gonna buy her a rear. KTM rear and front bolt right onto this thing. It is so stinking cool that I can go to the KTM shop and I can just get brake pads, I can get sprockets, I can get chains, I can get all that stuff. The suspension is KYB. I can go to my Yamaha dealership and I can just get parts. most of the stuff that's serviceable on this thing, you don't got to go to a Stark dealer. You could just go to either a KTM or a Yamaha dealer and just get the parts you need.
Do you want to talk about your front sprocket compared to my front sprocket when it happened?
Yeah, my front sprocket was pretty worn. I was pretty worn. I think it was probably around 60 hours, but also my chain was well overdue. My chain was rusty. It did not get the love and care that my wife's bike does. So my bike has a little bit more wear and tear. So the one thing you'll have to notice, because they don't have anything that clarifies, is some of the bikes come with a 13, some of them come with a 14. It's supposed to be that the 18s come with a 14 front and the 19-inch rears come with a 13 front. We both bought 18s for like months. I could not figure out why my wife's bike felt faster than mine. And then when we got the motor and then I did sprockets on mine, I was like, oh, that's what it is. Okay, because she had a 13 the whole time and she had more acceleration. And it evaded me. I thought there was something wrong with my bike because it had already lost a battery. It just ate me alive. There's a lot of great about this bike. There's a lot that's just a learning curve. And I feel like once you got over the learning curve, you know the little nitty gritty stuff, it's a great bike. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. The amazing part to us is coming home, washing it, lubing the chain, putting it on slow charge, and it's ready. You don't have to do anything. It's just ready. The oil capacity is 80 milliliters, and you do it every 40 hours, and it's just gear saver oil. We just use Yamalube 75, 80. I think this was like $12. And I've done 3 oil changes at this point on both of our bikes. So, and I still have about half of this thing. After punching a hole in the little case cover, we were riding at Colorado and just putting a little bit of oil in it, a little bit of oil in it, a little bit of oil in it. It was fine. It didn't miss a beat. And just coming back, like I know a lot of people talk about electric bikes this and electric bikes that. It's been a great experience. I was really worried about it coming into it, but man, I was sold. I rode an Alta 7 years ago, and I knew at that point that I was just going to love electric bikes, but range is the thing. And rounding this all out, I'm probably going to be selling mine. I don't have the funds to have 2 race bikes, and I'm probably going to have to go to a 350 so I can race A30 next year, because 1, I want to race the Nationals, and 2, I can't get the range. At some of the Enduros, I'm getting about 30 miles in race pace, and with the charger, like if I have a 15-minute charge, I'm only putting about 20%, 25% back into the bike. And if you think about that, that's only 8 miles. I've only put 8 or 9 miles back into it. So most of our Enduros on the B loops were around 40 to 45 miles. There was a couple of them last year I didn't finish. And it's been a learning curve, and now we know what to expect out of it. But gosh, if you're a sea rider, this thing is amazing. This thing is just so awesome. It's not amazing not having any maintenance. The amount of failures that we've had, I don't want to blame the crashes on the bike. It's easy to say because if it's a thin part that that wouldn't have happened if I was on my KTM. But man, there's no radiators. There's so much less to break. The linkage is so tucked up in here that we've drug it over rocks, like off the stock skid plate, never touched the linkage. And you'd have been bashing the crap out of a KTM. And I'm so surprised, but this stock skid plate has been through hell. And the foam's a little cracked right here. I've taken this skid plate off 5 or 6 times, and it fits right back exactly where it goes. I would like to buy an aftermarket, but I don't know. They killed it. They killed it with the first rendition. I'm super excited to see what the next ones come. But what you need to take away from this is, if you buy a Stark, there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be little nitty gritty stuff with like the map switch, the maps, the phone, the updates. The stuff changes. There's been little things like these map switches get sand in them. And they probably 3 or 4 times we've been out riding. It's like we can't get this red power button to come back out. So it's just sitting there off. And we've had that happen 5 or 6 times probably in the last year. And I say 5 or 6 between 2 bikes, but you know, you just and kind of wiggle it and it's fine. And it's been a little bit of a learning curve. At this point, in the last 5 or 6 months, we're on it. Like if there's a problem, we usually have it figured out within 10 minutes and it's keep riding. It's been great. Power's been good. The motor's been good. The drive's been good. I mean, gosh, the most things we've had to do to this bike is fork seals. And what, we've done 3 fork seals?
That's our fault though.
Yeah, because I mean, we ride it in sand all the time.
And mud.
And we're abusing the bike. I mean, her bike's got almost 100 hours on it. Mine's probably got 50 or 60, and they're not light hours. They are getting used and abused and raced. And you know, there's been days that we are driving back from Alabama through a typhoon, and you know, one of the bikes is on the back of the van, and it just got rained on for 11 hours. And I've been really happy. I would buy another one. I'd buy another one. Especially if the range got better. If they told me the Enduro had 15% more range, I wouldn't be getting a 350. I would just be buying an Enduro. Yeah, I love the bike. I mean, it's probably easy to tell. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Feel free to send me a message. I'm really good about replying to that kind of stuff. Let me know. Something I didn't say, but I really am now thinking about it. KTM wheels fit on this thing. If you use a KTM front wheel, not the new stuff like 23, 24s, but like the older wheels, like the 16, 18s, whatever's, if you use your KTM spacers on the front, bolts right up. Rear, you just use the Stark spacers in the KTM rear, bolts right up. It's cool, awesome. I really like the bike. Let me know. Appreciate you guys.